Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Great to have you in on a Wednesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. We are on the road. We are at the Mark today here in Elkhorn, the Future 50 with the Ward Academy. It's been just an incredible experience to be a part of this with Hail Varsity. So many of the top prospects in the state of Nebraska and surrounding area with us, and we'll hear different interviews today from a lot of the top juniors and seniors in the state of Nebraska. Great kids. They were educated on name, image, and likeness. It's really cool. Just got done talking to Max Butenbach. He is a big-time talent for Lincoln Southeast. Great family. And you know what? This guy may put a pile drive move on me. Because word got back to him that I've been bad-mouthing him. And I don't know where he gets that. But Joel Mackovicka, Husker Hall of Fame fullback, Mackovicka Physical Therapy. I'm introducing you, Mackovicka. You're coming in. You're kicking the show off. It's nice to see you. Joel Mackovicka back with us again on Hail Varsity.
And bringing in the closer.
Right away.
Like Mariano Rivera.
See, Junior was a big Mariano fan, and then I showed him the Arizona footage of the World Series. Oh, it broke his heart. I'm kidding. Yeah. How the heck are you, man?
I've been good, man. How about you? You seem like you're taking over media.
Oh, come on now.
You're this big conglomerate that you're doing so many shows that you're taking over. No, but we've been good. Things are kind of hopefully getting back to normal now, and we've been busy, and our business is good, so we're excited to be able to do things like this for the kids in the area.
Well, it is cool, and Mackovicka Physical Therapy, one of the sponsors, obviously, here with the Future 50. Steve Warren, a teammate of yours. We are excited to just get you on and talk some ball, but also kind of your outreach here, Joel. I mean, it's near and dear to your heart, giving back to kids, being a part of the community. With what, 19 locations now?
Yeah, we have 19 locations. Listen, we've grown very fast, but it was kind of growth out of not, hey, we're sitting here planning growth or out of necessity. It was growing out of finding areas that we thought were underserved and having great people come on board with us. And and that's why I love, athletics and supporting things like this so much, because it teaches so many things in life. And that's where I kind of got my business acumen from, is being around great leaders from Coach Osborne and Coach Solich and other coaches in the NFL, and learning how to build championship teams. And that's what we took to the business world, of recruiting the best management team and letting them do their job, and then recruiting the best, what we call players, as our professional staff. And so it's helped us grow really fast.
Joel Mackovicka is with us. You'll be able to see this interview on StreamYard as well. Husker Hall of Fame fullback. What would Joel Mackovicka have endorsed during your era with name, image, and likeness?
You know what?
Would there have been a big old Mack truck on the back of your helmet?
I'll tell you what. I thought about that, and the best thing about that is Nebraskans love their fullbacks. So I was
still do.
I know, and I was like, man, why wasn't this NIL in place when I was there? But I think it would have to be the Mack truck. Also, could I do some nice swimwear to where could show off my abs when I was a fullback?
Jeez, you know what? I'm sure this goes back, and you probably get this. The old Lagoon swim trunks.
Yes, I would have done that.
Mackovicka would have kept the Lagoons brand alive.
There it was. But I'll tell you, and you probably talked about this. The scary part about the NIL things to me is, how are they going to regulate these kind of things?
It's unknown, it's taxable, and you better be listening to the right people.
Well,
period. Because look at Bama, right? 7 figures.
Yeah, and that's type of the questions I ask, and you would know more about this because you've probably talked about this, but let's take, for example, a Phil Knight out in Oregon, and he already did that to, and I can't remember the defensive ends or the linebackers.
Thibodeau.
Yes, and I think it was like
possible top pick overall, and he's going to have his own gear.
Yes, and so like, what if a guy like Phil Knight says every year, I'm gonna earmark $50 million and say you go out and sign 25 recruits, and I know we can't use it in recruiting. But the word is once you sign on the dotted line, I'm going to give each recruit $2 million to say, hey, you're gonna create some Nike gear for me. And people like that could do it. So how do you regulate that?
Well, you get an internship with Warren Buffett if you're Nebraska.
Exactly. And that's what I told people. I said, we could do it here if Warren Buffett would be a supporter of
part of the touchdown club.
Exactly. So maybe that's what we should do.
Maybe he is. I don't know.
Go recruit Warren.
Yeah, Uncle Warren.
Yeah.
Meet Uncle Phil.
Yes.
And there we go. Joel, what do you think of the in-state talent, man? You follow recruiting. You love watching high school kids. You were tremendous high school talent, and then obviously did really well at Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And this setup that Steve put together, Steve Warren, is really awesome for a lot of the kids. Yeah, there's the media side of it, there's the NIL side of it, but above all, they get a chance to hang out, play laser tag, and be dudes with one another.
It's just experiences for these guys, and they get to meet these guys that are going to be recruited to colleges. Some are rising juniors, some are rising seniors, so they're all going to be recruited. They're going to go through the recruiting process, so they'll be able to get contact information, be able to talk and discuss recruiting visits, the whole process. And then also the media attention is an experience for these players to get them that great experience in front of the media. And like you said, I know this isn't just kids from Nebraska, and it's kind of kids from the area, but Nebraska's had, starting to get a lot of talent. There's, and I look at this as there's a lot of guys that I played with that are having kids now that are in high school already, and so there's a lot of talent around this state, and I've always felt that this state, we don't have the population base, but there's great talent now. There might not be the numbers, but this state is kind of a state where kids mature later, and I really feel that as they mature a little later, so they're raw when they get to college. So you have to be able to understand, hey, there's a ceiling for this kid and the expectations, and find those guys that you can create. And this is what I said you have to do at Nebraska. Take a 2 or 3 star guy and get him there, develop him, and say, hey, this guy could be really good, and make him into a 4 or 5 star guy, because we're not going to get 13, 14 5-star guys every year. So we need to take those 2 and 3 star guys that we see and we can project to develop them and get them to Nebraska or anywhere in the state. I talk it as a Nebraska, University of Nebraska, and make them into 4 and 5 star guys.
You look at you get a 2 or 3 star and you develop them into a 4 or 5 star, or you're what Bama's doing right now. You're getting 4 or 5, and you're setting them out potential Pro Bowl, right? I mean. That's fair, but Nebraska really was so good at development. I look at what Iowa State's been doing.
Correct.
Coach Campbell's been doing that, and I think with Coach Frost in Nebraska, I think they'll have a really good chance. I'm excited to see the offensive line this year, because that's some younger guys that have been a part of the program for a while. You see some of the guys on the defensive side of the ball that played young last year. Robinson and Rogers specifically, Daniels. Those guys have been continuing to elevate, so I think it's there. Let's go to Nebraska football. Incredible schedule, great opportunity, experienced quarterback. Man, it could be fun tomorrow. Of course, Frost and company meet the media. We just got back from Indy with media days, which was a lot of fun to do that. And I think Nebraska's under the radar, and they're really not thought that highly of. Yeah, they could, but there's not an expectation. There's almost an off the radar aspect of them.
And I think that's good for them right now. And don't you feel? And you were there, the Big Ten Media Day. I feel there's kind of a quiet confidence with them right now.
I think with the team and the coach. Yeah.
And I think that means they're comfortable. They're comfortable getting the culture where they want to be. And I think there's a quiet confidence, because I think it's kind of like walk softly and carry a big stick. And sometimes the quiet confidence, I like that. And early in his years, he was kind of, not as quiet about it. And because I think he knew the culture wasn't there, and he was trying to bring his guys along and exude this confidence. And now the coaching staff doesn't have to do that, or the older players, because I think there's this quiet confidence with the whole team. And you hit on it. I think if you look at this roster, I think where you can see the most improvement is our offense and defensive line. I think physically the development has been there, and it'll be interesting to see. Now I think there's some skill positions that need to step up this year at the receiver and the running back spot, but we have some older guys in the secondary that were able to come back. And so, there are very good parts to this team, and I think the coaches, especially Coach Frost, have the culture where he believes it needs to be at Nebraska, and he's going to keep building that, but it is a place where he's comfortable with right now. And again, you said this, Adrian Martinez is going to be a huge key factor for him to A, stay healthy, and B, he's got to play better. And quarterbacks run the show in college football now, and if he could play like a star, there's no telling what this Nebraska team can do.
And Coach Frost sat down with us and said that. Like, he's got the ability to be the player of the year. Totally does. Just take care of the football. But I think the biggest thing with him is to stay healthy, because I think that's your domino, because if he's not healthy, then he's probably forcing it, trying to do too much. I think, Joel, you guys had so much talent on the line and around already really good quarterbacks.
Yes, correct.
And I think just with the upgrade in size at receiver, and then you got to pick the right running back. You've got choices. Pick the right running back early in the season. Let him earn that spot. I think you got a lot of ability to delegate versus having to force it all the time if you're Adrian.
And like you said, it starts with the offensive line. If they can protect him, and he understands that they can give him a pocket or give the running backs running lanes, I think that settles him down. I think that makes him play up to the level he's capable of, is because I think if he feels like he doesn't have that confidence in them, then he's running around trying to do too much, get rid of the ball too quickly, things like that. So I think it starts with the offensive line, and if we can protect him, I think he has a good year this year.
Joel Mackovicka is with us, Hail Varsity Radio, the Future 50, Warren Academy putting this on. A ton of prospects you'll hear from. We'll post on social media. Brad Edwards, College Football Insider, his take on Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. And Joel, I got a couple of minutes here. We'll let you get out. And thanks for jumping by. And if there was some offense taken to my jabbing, it was done with love.
I get it, man. I mean, how could I be mad at the best voice in radio right now?
You are. The check keeps coming to Mackovicka. I'm just going to keep handing it that way. Your take here. A lot's happened. Trev, now the AD. I love the Moose, but I think Trev's a good thing. What's your take?
You know what? I do think it's a good thing, and I'm a culture guy. I'm a former Nebraska guy. That's who I want in this program, and I think Trev did it right as far as, hey, he was an AD at a smaller division college here in Nebraska, and then took him to Division I. I know there's some things that people are still a little bit, lack of a better term, upset with him about what he did. Yeah, pissed at him. But I think it was more kind of the way it went down instead of what he actually did. But, Trev's a smart guy. I think he's going to do a great job. He understands it. And I love what he said at the Big Ten Media Days. Is he never talked about wins and losses and that. He talked about meeting with the coaching staff and everybody. He talks about his expectations of doing the little things and having a process and focusing on the process, and then you will get to where you need to get. So to me, listen, I think it's a great hire, but I'm one of those guys that I like people that have been around the Nebraska football and I'll say football culture, but all of our sports in the 80s and 90s when we were at the top of everything. And it's kind of like I said, when we built our business, that's what you wanted to do, and I think he has that in him.
Okay, 2 minutes. Frank Solich. Do they bring Frank back for the opener?
You know what? I hope they do. I don't know if Coach Solich will necessarily want to do that. I think Coach has never been a guy that it's about him, and so I think he won't want to do that, but I hope they do. This is a guy that gave everything to the University of Nebraska program. He played here, he coached here. And listen, I tell the guys all the time that ask me about Frank is when I went to the combine and I had individual meetings with coaches, they all said, hey, we know you can play. We know you were coached by the best running back coach in the country, and that was Frank Solich.
Wow.
And that's how they thought of this guy. And Frank gave a lot to the university, so I know everybody would embrace him back with open arms, but I don't know if Frank eventually he will. I just don't know if it's the opening game and he wants it about him. Listen, this is a tough thing for him, you know, and to do what he's done for so long and then to walk away so suddenly and for why he did, it's tough for him. So I think he's got to heal from that.
Sure. Joel Mackovicka is with us, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow, the Future 50, Warren Academy, and the top prospects in the state of Nebraska here. We'll hear from them. Greg Schmidt on the way, Brad Edwards on the way, Joel Mackovicka, Husker Hall of Famer.
Appreciate it, my man.
We got to give the ball to the fullback. We did that today. And, hey, we'll have to sneak you back in at some point before kickoff actually happens.
Let's do it.
To get a beer in the rail yard.
I like that.
And you're going to have to dust off those golf clubs because I know they've not been used all summer.
I've seen you golf, and you're too good
oh, dude,
to
I'm
golf
awful.
against me.
I lose $5,000 to my mom.
Well, I mean, if you could lose $5,000 to your mom, I need to get into radio.
Well, it's an IOU. It's as good as money.
Okay, got it.
All right, we'll spend some time with Greg Smith on the way. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio listen?
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Hey, we're back here at Hail Varsity, the Future 50 Warren Academy going on, and we have had a number of in-state prospects come on by the Hail Varsity table. We say hi to Greg Smith, who was an incredible option quarterback in high school.
That is true.
You told me that. You played on. You were a point guard and an option quarterback.
I get better. The funny thing is, I get
better with age?
Yeah, every year somehow I've gotten better as an option quarterback. I don't know how that happens. Weird. Shout out to my coach.
Were you just tight with the fullback and gave him the dive read more times than not, or were you just a guy that I'm going to keep this around the end, Tommy Frazier style,
I mean,
man?
you're smiling because I was definitely trying to keep that thing around the end. We had a good fullback too, so it was probably my bad. But I did like keeping it around there, seeing what I could pick up.
Well, some of us at the table didn't do high school football because we sucked. Others ran the option. But imagine having this when we were going to school. What Steve Warren and the Warren Academies have done, and, of course, Soldier Sports. And what a setup here for – I mean, so many of the Future 50 here. I mean, it's been really cool.
Yeah, it's a really neat event because you're right. I can't imagine having something like this when we were in school. Just to be able to come out and talk to you, or to be on the radio to talk to the different media outlets that are here. Like, it's really neat to be able to practice that, but then also have some of your pictures taken. They love that. What high school kid doesn't? And then the educational piece with the NIL presentation that Open Doors put on. Like, there's just been a lot of really cool stuff, and it's really great value for Warren Academy, for Soldier Sports, and especially because it's free for the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes it even better. I think that this is going to be the first of many years that you see this event happen.
Well, and what a job Steve Warren's done, because Steve's always looking out for kids, and he's been training kids, obviously, but this is just another service, quite frankly, with the media session and also the NIL stuff. So that's really cool. Number of kids here, Greg, and I know you've talked to some, we've talked to some, but who are some of the kids on your radar that you're watching this 2021 season?
Yeah, I think that maybe the very first kid that I talked to today, Maverick Noonan out of Elkhorn South, is a kid. He's not a 2022 kid. He's a 2023 prospect. But really watching him closely to see if he kind of takes that next step in his development that everybody is expecting from him. I expect him to take that next step. Tyson Money, wide receiver out of Papillion West South, is another kid that I'm watching closely. The Bellevue West contingent was here.
Sure.
So watching those kids, Riley Ducker, and those guys getting to see KD Caden Helms, Davon Hall, who's also here, and seeing Davon Hall kind of make that next jump, as you know, Huffman's been telling us all for the last year or so that he's the next one up. As I see him walking this way, he's an impressive-looking prospect coming through. I think he'll be the next big name in the state.
No, a lot of talent with Coach Huffman's crew, and Greg Smith is with us, HailVarsity.com magazine, and find him on Twitter at GregSmithHV. With these prospects, you have your kids that have already accepted some offers. You've got a number of kids that have Ivy League offers, which is really cool. And then you have the kid, we think you're fantastic, but COVID's COVID, and I need senior film.
Yep.
You've had programs in the past that have waited and been patient with senior film. And I think back to a guy like Kenny Bell or Quincy Anunwa that had killer senior film. Nebraska nailed with the recruitment, and we know the rest is history. A couple of NFL guys. But that'd be so hard for these kids to be patient with the senior film part, but that's the reality they're in.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I think that they realize that that's the reality, but at the same time, I think one of the best things, or really a big thing kind of pushing them forward, is that they did get to have those camps this offseason, right? And I think almost every kid that I talked to referenced being able to get out there, and I talked to a couple of kids that said they went to 6-7 camps.
Yeah, like the whole month of June.
Yeah, the whole month of June. All I basically did was go to camps, but that's because they couldn't do anything that previous year, and they don't want to just have to rely on that senior film. Yeah, think about it. There are kids that are here that college coaches hadn't seen in person in over a year, right? You know what happens to high school kids and at this stage of their life. They're getting bigger, right? There's kids that have changed a lot since coaches last got eyes on them. So it was good that they got that opportunity. But the senior film is going to just be huge for a lot of these guys. I feel like a couple of kids definitely said, I've talked to this school, I've talked to that school. They just want to see senior film to see how it all comes together. And that's going to be like that around the country.
Well, you look at a guy like Vincent Genatone, North Platte. He's a guy that we spent some time with and we'll hear from. I mean, he hit Cal, he hit Washington State, Nebraska. I mean, he's been to a large part of the western region of the U.S. and I mean, really good ball player with his speed and kind of that triple threat ability with wrestling and track and of course the football side, and Nebraska's kind of looking at him. When you kind of see Vince's film and also projection here, that's another talented in-skate kid that we got to keep our eye on.
Yeah, he definitely is, and he's a kid that's kind of getting the double whammy in a bad way here. He's getting what you said about the senior film was that lack of evaluation, but then also he's kind of, for Nebraska's purposes, in the numbers crunch, right, with Nebraska not having that many spots. And I think that if you had a full class, I really think that he'd already be in Nebraska's class. If they could take 25 this year, they just can't. Probably limited to 14, and so we're just going to have to wait and see with Vince. But I think that he's a kid that could play safety or linebacker at the next level. He could kind of be that hybrid. He's just a super athlete, and I think that you're going to get to see a lot of good stuff out of him in his senior season. Something
I've noticed here, there's a lot of kids here at the Future 50 with the Warren Academy that are outside backers or that are safety / outside backers, that hybrid. The pendulum has now swung back from the slot hybrid receiver, the big body basketball guy, to there's a lot of kids on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, there definitely are. Like, I feel like those two, and still some of those tight ends, because kind of a similar body type in a way for if they're going to play hybrid outside linebacker. But it just seems like this state and this region is just chock full of those guys right now, which is both good and bad. You can only take so many, but that's a really good thing. And it does seem like you saw a swing, and especially coming here in the future with those guys that are playing on the defensive side of the ball. But I also think it's because colleges, and it started kind of in the NFL, but colleges specifically are finding ways to utilize those guys that can play those hybrid roles. You can play in a number of defenses and a number of roles. Nebraska has that role in a couple different ways in their defense, between what they're doing with JoJo and then guys like Isaac Gifford and Javen Wright and others coming after that. It's an exciting time for those types of guys.
Well, and it's an equalizer on the defensive side of the ball, where you can get a guy that can get after the quarterback, that is big and physical against the run and is athletic enough to cover. And there's a lot of kids that have done that. Offensive line, there's been a number of kids that have come through here that really have gone hard to work with their footwork, but there's a lot of big kids that they said, you know what, I've really hit a growth spurt or two, and I think that's something you're seeing here with the in-state talent, Greg, where you've got some late bloomers, but man, they've bloomed pretty. With that late growth spurt.
Yeah, and what you've seen is a lot of kids with, like you mentioned, with that attention to the footwork, right? I think that something that I'm not sure that when we were in high school, maybe I don't want to put down my offensive lineman.
I've got two left feet, Greg.
Yeah,
so.
I don't remember them saying, you know what I've been doing this summer? I've been working on jumping rope because I want to get better with my first step. I'm always impressed at how young of an age kids are really tuned into their training and how they can find small ways to get better that add up to big things on the football field. Like I've been really impressed with that with some of the linemen we talked to.
Greg Schmidt is with us. A few minutes here, Hail Varsity Radio, the Future 50 with the Warren Academy. A number of kids that have had a chance to kind of showcase their talent throughout the summer. They're working on those offers, putting out that senior film. Greg, want to shift gears to tomorrow. It's Media Day. We were just at Big Ten Media Days. Now we're back to Nebraska Media Day. And a thought from you here as we look towards 2021. We know that the expectations, the buzz, is a little more muted this season, but it sounds like that there's a number of Nebraska guys that are really fired up to go have kind of a breakthrough season. Nebraska could do it this year.
Yeah, they definitely could. I still maintain that the talent is there for Nebraska to be able to do that. They just need to put it all together and show that they can stay locked in and concentrated through entire stretches of time, right? And I think that begins with fall camp. I think that's where starting off the season with that conference game, I think is a real positive actually for this team. Feels a little weird, but it ends up being a positive because there's no way to have a week of fall camp where people are just disconnected and not really into it. If you know you've got a conference opponent and, oh, by the way, that conference opponent beat you last year, they're not going to probably publicly talk about that revenge factor, but you know it's there and it's in their minds. So I think that it'll definitely be an interesting season. I think that starting with Big Ten Media Days, you heard that a lot of guys are locked in, and that seems to be more player-led, and I think that that's definitely something to look for.
No, and do you just get the sense, too, with some of the players that have already spoken, and we'll hear from tomorrow, that there is some true ownership that's been not just given but earned from coaches to players now?
Yeah, I definitely think that. And I think that what you also have with that is more guys that are willing to take that on, right? And so now it's not just, okay, here comes the one, maybe two guys that taking ownership of this thing and that are really going to hold us accountable. But basically every position group has that guy now, right, that you can look to that will really hold people's feet to the fire. And I think that that's really important as you really try to have that culture set in that it can't be like this anymore, because that's really the end result. You heard that from Austin Allen. You'll probably hear it again tomorrow when we talk to guys is this is not what I want my legacy at Nebraska to be. It's this brand of football, so we've got to come together and figure out a way to be better.
It's Greg Smith with HailVarsity.com and magazine, the Future 50, and Warren Academy, along with Soldier Sports, Mackovicka Physical Therapy. We're out here, a road show Wednesday. Greg, I know you've been busy. What can folks look forward to seeing and reading from you, as you also had a chance to talk to a lot of recruits and prep standouts?
Yeah, I'll be gathering up some of the intel and talk that I had here today and kind of putting different things together. One of the things that really interested me today that I'll probably run maybe tomorrow and the next day is just about the NIL presentation that these guys got. And the thing that surprised me was how many parents were over there in that thing. And, you know, it kind of hit me as I'm sitting there is, you know, we talk so much about how this impacts student athletes. The parents don't know what's really happening either. They're confused too, and that's not a bad thing. Like, they're just confused. It's new. So talk to some of those folks. I'm really interested in putting all of that together and seeing where it lands.
Greg, good to see you, man. Appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Good stuff with Greg Smith. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We are here at the Future 50 Warren Academy. Good stuff from Joel Mackovicka, the man. Steve Ward is coming up as we roll forward here, hour one. Plenty of prospects to hear from. Noah Walters, Lincoln East. Love watching him play ball just down the road from us at Seacrest, and what a senior season he's in store for. Davon Hall, super talented wideout from Bell West, and so many other prospects. All the videos will be posted. Greg Smith with his recruiting. Steve Warren next on Hail Varsity.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity Radio. The Future 50 is we're on the road here, the Warren Academy, and a ton of top prospects. We'll hear from Max Butenbach coming up. Lincoln Southeast, Noah Walters, Lincoln East, Davon Hall, and then a number of kids from around the region. A lot of Papio, Millard South, Millard West, the Metro, the man to my right, doing an amazing job of training and mentoring Steve Warren, Warren Academy, and the Dream Foundation with us. Steve, it is good to see you again. We had a chance to chat Friday. Now we got you on video, bud.
Yeah, I like
smile,
it.
Smile loud and proud. And,
camera, right?
Hey, what a day for you. What a day for the kids you work with. And take a deep breath, man. Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys for coming.
No, it's all good.
Appreciate you guys for coming. It was good to get everybody out, and I know we've talked a few times, but it's all been through phone and everything else, so it's good to sit here next to you and get an interview in. And
no, it's all good.
Appreciate these kids and you guys coming out. No,
it's all good. Last time we got to sit down together, we were in Boulder, and things were all good until halftime. So, listen, Steve, kind of touch on what today meant for you and what you wanted to kind of provide to the kids with not only the media session but the NIL aspect of things, because talking with as many kids as we did, and thanks for the access, they were really intrigued by what this new world looks like in college football.
I think for me it was a success just because we were able to provide those kids with that information. What's the next step for an athlete that's now in this NIL world that we live in? Like, how do they build their brand? How do they get themselves out there? Are they doing the right things? The big thing the parents wanted to know, what information are they supposed to be looking for, and does it affect high school kids? Does it not? So for me, it was a success just because we were able to offer something that was valuable, that was different, and we had a good turnout. I was very pleased with the event.
Steve Warren's with us, the Warren Academy and the Dream Foundation, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow, the Future 50. And Steve, there's a lot of kids you train, you work with, you get to see every day, and you're a voice of reason when they reach out to you. And how as a whole have you seen this recruiting process be good or be overwhelming? You've seen it's different per case. With
the one thing
kids.
I always asked the high-level kids that have been recruited for a year or 2 years now, and they've been on the whole invite circuit, and they've done the unofficial and the official and all the camps. Were you ready to commit when you committed? And overwhelmingly, everybody was like, I was over it. Like, I was just ready to get it done. And then there's the group that's still wanting the bigger offer, that have to go through week 3 or week 4 of their season and hope that somebody pulls the trigger. So there's still that group that's still trying to get the Power 5 offer or the FBS offer that is an FCS offer kid right now. So it's just interesting. Everybody's walk is different. There's the younger kids, the Davon Halls, the Daniel Kalins that are 2024s that are just getting into this world and really starting to pick up offers. And then you have the 23s that are, hoping to get more exposure. So for them, I think it was valuable because they're probably the most important group out of the bunch. The 22s are pretty much almost done. They're at the finish line. But it's just different for every kid, and we just want to be there to help them out and give them any advice or guidance that we can.
Steve Warren's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, the Warren Academy, and the Dream Foundation here, the Future 50. So we look at this new world of college football. We were talking conference realignment on Monday, and now you've got kids that could be going to a Big Ten school one day, or, I'm going to the Big 12, and tomorrow it's the SEC. But what this speaks to is just the level of talent in state and how there are no borders anymore. What's kind of been the biggest wow factor to you about how infiltrated? And I never thought, I grew up here. Yeah. I never thought I'd see the amount of high-level schools come in, and they are. They're camping out. They're camping out. They're camping out to get Nebraska talent.
And they're coming in and they're pulling it out. So the borders are not closed right now. It's an open open range out there for colleges that want to come in and get kids. And every level, we mentioned it earlier, Coach Bowl at Wyoming is heavily involved with a lot of these kids right now, and a lot of them are looking seriously.
Sure, and Craig, I think back to, Craig has done really well wherever he's been.
Yeah.
Incredible head coach, and Wyoming's right up there, and he's a young 63 is what I'm going to say. And I know he was there with you.
Yes, yep.
But he did incredible things at North Dakota State, and then obviously went to Wyoming. But Bowles there, Matt Campbell in Iowa State, and Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. In Kansas State.
They're all heavily in there, yeah. So Kansas State today, we had 2 guys.
Yeah.
Two commits, Iowa State commit, a couple other that are looking heavily at Iowa State. It's not a Nebraska region anymore, right? There's Oklahoma kid, right? And there's multiple kids that might end up at Oklahoma, and it's SEC, Big Ten, Mountain West. Like every conference in the country is recruiting here. What
do kids look for? Is it just I want to go win, or I want to go be in a fun offense or a defense? Is it fit or winning percentage?
I think that goes back to each kid too. Like most kids that I've talked to, winning has been a priority, but it hasn't been the main thing. It's kind of weird now, right? Like for me, it was all about winning. Mm-hmm. Like I don't care about anything else. Like winning, like school is school, right? For me, like I want to win. Mm-hmm. So for all these kids, that was my approach. Like I can get school anywhere. I can't win everywhere, right? So.
That's so good.
Most kids now it's different. Each kid is looking for something different. Some kids are looking for now those big schools like who's doing well with NIL. Like what conference am I going to play in? Like the SEC. If people might hate this, but football kids want to play in the SEC. Mm-hmm. They're sending the most kids to the NFL, the most first rounders. Kids want to play across the country. Kids want to play in the SEC. So that's why we see this realignment happening right now because. Sure. Oklahoma couldn't get those 5-star kids.
They were right there.
They were right there,
but they playing.
But they weren't. They were right there, but the kid was like, well, I can go to Auburn, I can go to Alabama, I can go to A&M and play in the SEC. So now Oklahoma's now an SEC school. Mm-hmm. Maybe you know how that goes, but
should be.
But that's why we're seeing that move. So each kid is different. Every one of them now. It's not so much about winning anymore. It's really about perception and a lot of it is fluff too. It's like who's marketing the best and who's marketing the players the best.
What's your take on Iowa? I mean, Iowa has a history of coming into some of the smaller towns in Nebraska and winning and taking kids that Nebraska wanted to walk on, but they also have really hit well in the metro. And they're not stopping. And by the way, they've been winning. At a high level.
And that helps, and they're close to home. Mm-hmm. Right, so that's also a big thing too. I think if most kids can stay close to home and win and compete,
sure,
that's always somebody you're going to look at, right? If they're competing and they're in a championship hunt, whether it's conference or national championship, and I was somehow always in that talk.
Sure,
most years
they're competing for the West.
Last year wasn't the best, but they're competing to be in that hunt to win a conference championship. So that makes a big difference. And Iowa's kind of old school, and I think they do a good job of knowing the type of kid that'll come there too. Mm-hmm. Like, so most of the kids that Iowa recruits, they have a certain background or demeanor to them. It's not really the flashy kid.
Steve Warren, Warren Academy. Brother, this was awesome. Congrats on your day.
I appreciate you guys coming out.
All right. We'll wind down hour one. Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this first hour, Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery. More on conference realignment and the college football season. Brad Edwards with us, ESPN College Football Insider. Next hour, we'll hear from some of the kids we spoke with, some of the top prospects, the Future 50 that Steve Warren put on. Big thanks to Steve Warren and Greg Schmidt and Joel Mackovicka, our favorite fullback, man. Kicking off the hour. Elijah, been a whirlwind day, and we got another hour left, and some pretty good prospects that took a few minutes out with us next hour.
Yeah, the talent coming up in Nebraska. I mean, we talk so much about where the talent's at now, but the talent coming down the road, and you look at Daniel Kalen. We sat down with Davon Hall, and you look at those guys coming up, and you go, okay, the future of Nebraska high school football and recruiting is still in good hands. There's just some great talent still coming up, and not just from those big Class A schools.
No, and you know what? There's an 8-man player we talked to that can play some ball. We talked to Genatone from North Platte. That will be posted and available. And you'll hear that. And then the Metro is really good. I mean, the West Side contingent, a lot of West Side kids. And then Hurrdat is one player that I know he's been working out with Steve Warren for a while. But Hunter is just a kind of a wow. And he looks like it. Dude, doesn't he look like a throwback defensive lineman? I mean, he looks ready to go rip your head off if you're a ball carrier. And he's off to Iowa State, which is super impressive. So, I mean, a lot more to get to here in hour two. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you look at Hurrdat, I mean, the dude's built like a brick porta potty. Self-censor there. I mean,
Thank you for the edit.
He's squatting like 600 pounds, deadlifting like 600 pounds. And Iowa State's got a good one in Hurrdat, and that's not even whenever you account for just the beautiful head of hair the man's got.
Well, he's got the hair, he's got the beard. I mean, he's totally locked into it. I want to remind you about your friends at West Blue Realty. So they specialize in residential home sales in Lincoln and the surrounding communities. They'll help you make that next move, and maybe the time is now to try and sell that house. Maybe it's just too good a number to pass up. Maybe you're looking for that next house, and there's scarcity, clearly. And you know what? West Blue Realty will make it a priority to find you that house you're looking for. Two names to know: Tom Luby, Kelly Hofschneider. They're outstanding. Give Tom a shout at 402-540-3768 or Kelly Hofschneider 402-202-2312. It pays to work with West Blue. WestBlueRealty.com, and find them 1120 K Street, Suite 200 in Lincoln. So we are loaded up. Jack Kirkwood, a name to think about, middle linebacker for Creighton Prep. He is also a guy that can play tight end. We'll hear from him, and a lot of Brad Edwards on the way. I'll be interested to get his take, knowing the SEC like he does, just what he thinks the pecking order will be. Where does Texas and Oklahoma fall in that power ranking as they get ready to make the move to the SEC and get that big TV money? Well, can give us a shout. Numbers to get in: 466-377-6800, 825-5865. Email chris@hailvarsity.com. Or give us a follow on Twitter at Schmidt_radio.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio,
Brad
the
Edwards,
voice of
next
Husker
hour
Nation.
two.
Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back at it, hour two. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal. We are at the Future 50, and really cool stuff. We'll hear from a couple of prospects in the high school ranks in the great state of Nebraska. Coming up here, good stuff from Steve Warren, Joel Mackovicka, and Greg Smith. We are going to talk some college football. We welcome in College Football Insider and author. We say hi to Brad Edwards at Brad Edwards on Twitter. Brad, how's your Wednesday going? What's new, man?
I have been so busy the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you've seen on social media, but I've been putting out a series of videos on Alabama football. I started with 50 days till the season opener, and I've been doing one every day, and I'll continue to all the way till the day before the first game, and it's a lot of work putting these together, and they're essentially trivia questions. And so I'll ask the question early in the video, and then I'll give the answer before it's over. And it's fun. engages people, but man, it's a different type of work than what I used to do in July.
No worries. The countdown to kickoff, man, is upon us here. We're under 33 days. I mean, I think we're a month out, right on from when Nebraska kicks off against Illinois. And then, oh yeah, by the way, let's rattle some cages, Brad, with Oklahoma and Texas. Had you heard any murmurs, any rumors about this, or were you shocked when Oklahoma and Texas said, "Hey, love you, sorry, see you, Big 12"?
Yeah, I was shocked, and my first thought was not that it's a joke, but that there's no way it's actually going to happen. The idea that Oklahoma and Texas would want to go to the SEC or that the SEC would be interested in having them, those weren't surprising. But for everything to be able to be put together and not be in violation of any contracts or obviously not get stopped by somebody's state legislature or anything like that, that was the part that as the reports started to come in the next day or two, and we started to understand that this was real, like this was probably going to happen, I was like, wow. I guess my reaction is that it's something that it required a confluence of events. And, I think it kind of started with COVID in that, all of these athletic departments lost so much money last year, that money became a bigger deal because they all took a major hit to the budget, and it's not the type of thing that you get back by just going out and playing a normal season in 2021. It's going to take a while to dig out of this hole without an influx of cash. And, of course, the other thing kind of along with that was this name, image, and likeness stuff where, I'm not sure that it necessarily is a setback to football, but you get into some of the non-revenue sports and, maybe some of the people who have, given money or sponsored non-revenue sports in recent years are going to turn and they're going to sponsor athletes instead of the teams. And so in one way or another, the name, image, and likeness stuff is going to cost athletic departments money. And I think that was something that they recognized too, is that we need more cash in order to kind of, make up for this deficit. And then, the other piece of this, which is obviously still, kind of in limbo, is this 12-team playoff idea. And if there is a 12-team playoff, that's something that would make this, a lot more friendly to Oklahoma and Texas in that, there's a format where 6 teams that are not conference champions would get into the playoff. So it's not like you got to win the SEC when you go join it in order to have a chance to play for the national title. And I think everyone agrees that if the conference ends up being constituted that way and there's 6 at-large spots, the SEC could easily get 4 of them in a given year. And so I think those 3 things combined kind of made it the perfect storm for something like this to happen. Now we'll just have to wait and see, what does happen with that 12-team playoff and does it end up coming to fruition as had been reported in previous months.
What have you heard or felt from friends around the SEC about A&M's reaction?
That's a great question. I have not talked to – I have a good bit of family that went to A&M, and I have not asked any of them yet what their thoughts are. I did talk to my brother the day that it happened, and he was kind of – wasn't really sure what to make of it. He was kind of like me. He didn't think that it actually would come to be. And so I don't think he was all that concerned about it at the time. I think right now A&M people, on one hand are excited about, the direction their program is headed. And they have a feeling that, hey, they're as good as anyone right now. They're better than Texas right now. So what do we really have to be afraid of? But I also think in the back of their minds, they realize that they've had a little bit of an advantage for once over Texas in recent years in that they have this SEC draw for certain recruits in the state to get a chance to play in that league instead of the Big 12. And, that's going to go away. And so, you wonder, is this something that's just going to vault Texas right above A&M. What impact is it going to have on others? I mean, one of the schools that I'm a little surprised wasn't against this is LSU, because LSU, just being where it is geographically, has had success going in, especially into the Houston area, and grabbing players. And it's the same type of thing, which is that you can come play in the SEC. And, I think with Texas joining the league, it's going to be harder for everyone in the SEC, not just A&M, to get the best players out of Texas. So we'll see. I think it's going to have an impact on a lot of teams.
Brad Edwards with us, College Football Insider, Hail Varsity Radio. We are on the road here, the Future 50 with the Steve Warren and Warren Academy here. We will check in, Brad, on the rest of college football now here. Are you worried about the sport with this move? Are you worried about what happens with, is it going to be just one big league, or is the SEC done for now with just two additions here? Let's big picture this thing with the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the ACC, Notre Dame. What's the fallout here after phone calls are made, interviews are conducted, and a response happens with another Power 5 league?
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't think anything else is going to happen, because I think more than likely stuff will. And I think especially with the remaining schools in the Big 12, they can't stay put. They're either going to have to join someone else or, bring someone else to join. I guess either way, it's one or the other. But aside from that, when you start looking at the possible domino effect, first of all, this whole idea of 16-team super conferences becoming the thing, where there would be 4 16-team leagues, that was real popular, 8, 9, 10 years ago, that, everyone thought that's the direction the sport was heading. It didn't make sense then, and it still doesn't make sense now. 16 is some magic number. Increasing the size of your conference only makes sense if you can add teams that are going to create more value per team. Not create more value overall for the conference, but create enough extra value that every team in the league is making more money by having them in there. And there are only a few schools, outside of the SEC that have that type of value, and it looks like they're grabbing 2 of them. All right, and then most of the rest of them are in the Big Ten. And so, outside of what's currently in the Big Ten, or the SEC or Oklahoma or Texas, I mean, you're looking at Notre Dame and USC might be the only 2 that are actually gettable. I mean, you've got the ACC. I mean, I would argue there's no one in the ACC has that kind of value anyway. Even Clemson, where their program is right now, doesn't have that kind of value. But even if it did, they have a grant of rights going into the 30s. So it's really just Notre Dame and USC, and you would think that if Notre Dame were to join a conference, and I'm not hearing anything that would suggest that they're interested in doing so, it would be the ACC, because that's where all their other sports are. And then USC, why would they leave the Pac-12 on their own? I've even heard rumors. Okay, the Big Ten might go after half the Pac-12. Why? I mean, USC is worth a lot, but the rest of them aren't worth enough, for that to be a deal worth doing. So, I think there's going to be some significant movement among. Whether it's the rest of the Big 12, the American, maybe there's something going on with the Pac-12. But as far as other major pieces being moved, I really don't see anything other than Oklahoma and Texas.
Brad Edwards is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brad, you hit on something a little bit right there at the end. You said you're expecting a lot of movement from what's left of the Big 12. So I want to ask what you think happens to the Big 12, because, there's been talk of maybe the Big 10 goes and gets Kansas for the basketball program. But do you think that the Big 12 will be able to stay together and still be a conference come 5 years from now?
I don't. The only way it would stay the Big 12 and keep that name would be if it were to add, 2 to 4 schools from elsewhere. And I think there's a better chance that some existing conference is going to incorporate, the Big 12 into its structure. And I don't know whether that's something that would be worked out where, look, maybe there could be some sort of partnership with the Pac-12 where they've got divisions. But even that, it really doesn't make sense. Why would you have a conference stretching from California all the way over to, I guess West Virginia, but even if we forget West Virginia, Iowa, like it doesn't work. And, I think what makes a heck of a lot more sense, and I know this is not what any of those Big 12 schools want, but what makes more sense is for them to align with probably the American, to tell you the truth. Geographically, it might make as much sense to align with the Mountain West, but there's not as much value there. So I don't know, but there are already some American teams that are in states that have leftover Big 12 teams, and so it wouldn't be a complete disaster geographically. Maybe they could make it work, but. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. I just don't think there's any way that they can stay with just those 8 teams and be able to have a league that would, that would have enough value that they could get a big TV deal. And on top of that, all indications are we're heading to a playoff where your league champion's not going to get in automatically anyway. And so there wouldn't be an incentive to just kind of stay the Big 12 in the idea that you might have some sort of automatic berth.
Brad Edwards with us, Hail Varsity Radio, College Football Insider. Brad, about 2 minutes here, a quick thought. Okay, Bama's a favorite, and you have A&M that's got some love. Who do you think can challenge or will challenge Bama here? What's Nick got coming back here for another repeat opportunity?
Well, I would say if Alabama was ever going to be vulnerable, if this was ever going to be a situation where they can't just reload with all the 4 and 5 stars on the roster, it would seem to be this year, just because they had 6 consensus All-Americans on last year's team. No one has had 6 consensus All-Americans in a single season since Yale in 1909, okay? That last year's Alabama team was the first one to do that since then, and they lost every one of them, not a single one coming back. And that obviously includes the quarterback. So you've got an inexperienced quarterback and very few stars returning. The issue is, as far as who's going to knock them off, is the other teams that are even close to them talent-wise. Obviously, Clemson, Ohio State, they couldn't play them until game 14 at the earliest. Georgia doesn't have them on the regular season schedule, so they can't play them until game 13, SEC championship at the earliest. And even A&M, which A&M's got to replace a 4-year starter quarterback themselves. But A&M, which the last few years has gotten Alabama relatively early in the season, doesn't get them until a little bit later this year. So outside of Miami in the season opener, I'm not sure there's anyone good enough to even have a chance against Alabama in the part of the season where they're still going to be really inexperienced. So I think it's going to come down to what it comes down to every year, which is of the most talented teams, who has the best quarterbacks, and we'll wait and see on how good Alabama's quarterback is. The reviews have been excellent, but you got to see him do it in the game.
Brad, that'll be interesting. I forgot, and I should just get my mind right here. Bama and the U to open things up. That'll be incredible. We'll be geared up for Nebraska, Illinois, week 0 spotlight, so that'll be all right. And then we're off and running for another season. Real quick, Brad, your book, where can folks get it? Tell them about it. A lot of college football lovers in Nebraska.
Yeah, my book, Dynasty by the Numbers, which really just looks at how much Alabama has dominated the sport since 2008, 2009. The website is going to be launched in the next few days. It's BamaDynastyBook.com. If you go there and it's not open yet, just keep checking back. It'll be up real soon. And then the actual books will be arriving first 10 days or so of August.
Awesome. Brad, we'll do this again soon. Thanks for the time today, bud.
You got it, Chris. Take care, guys.
And now,
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back here, Hail Varsity Radio, Future 50 with the Warren Academy and Soldier Sports. Talented wideout, Bellevue West. You know the program. Davon Hall is with us. Davon, nice to spend some time with you. How's your day been?
It's been really cool. Got to finally see all my friends and stuff, so it's been really, really chill. So.
Yeah, I mean, a little laser tag, a little pizza.
Yep.
You got the NIL thing.
Yep.
How was that? Open Doors, incredible company. I know they had a presentation for you.
Yeah, that was really, really cool to see all the ways that you can build your brand and stuff, and that you can how much money you can make through all that stuff. So.
That just really blow you away?
Oh yeah,
that it's now a reality.
It's ridiculous. I think it's super cool.
So branding, is that something that's been on your radar, or is it something you're pretty intrigued by?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've always wanted that to happen, and a dream that has finally come true. And also bringing back the football game. That
that's the other thing. Folks are just high-fiving about the college football game.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
So who's your team?
In the college football game?
Yeah.
Oh man. See, that's the hard part is because I haven't played in forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I do play, it'll probably be like LSU or Nebraska or Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, okay. I mean, and I have to go back, and this was, you're going to get up and walk away, but like the last time I really gamed was probably 20 years ago, so it was PS2 college football, says the old guy sitting next to you. But no, I hear you. I mean, I liked playing with Oregon back then, or Nebraska. They ran the option then, but that was cool.
Yep.
And once in a while, you just, I don't know, Florida State or Miami was cool. But no, Davon Hall's with us. We got off the Yellow Brick Road here and got into college football gaming. So how has your summer been? Tell me about some of the camps you've had a chance to visit.
It's been really good. A lot of training and stuff that I've done, a lot of work done with the team. So the very first camp that I went to that I remember was Notre Dame. Yes, Notre Dame. I'm pretty sure
you've probably done like 30 camps, right?
Well, actually didn't do that many camps this year because just because of we didn't get out all that much because we had like football stuff with the school and stuff, and then COVID. So, but we went to Notre Dame for a camp. Got to visit that place. We went to K-State for that camp, and then we went to Nebraska, and those are the three that I went to, and then we went to that All-American camp. So that one was cool.
So what was the experience like for you at Notre Dame? Also touch on how you enjoyed Nebraska and Iowa. I'm not asking you to compare, but just kind of what stuck out about each.
With Notre Dame, the big campus, their campus was huge. I loved it. It was super, super, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like
you've got South
super
Bend,
cool.
and then you have campus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and all of it's beautiful. It's super, super beautiful. So that's what stuck out to me about that. And with the football program, they are very down to earth. Get to work. Just do what we got to do to get you better. So, and then with Iowa, I went to Iowa Monday, and that was super, super cool. I didn't do it. I haven't done a camp there, or I didn't do a camp. So, but it was more of an unofficial visit type thing. It was a junior day thing that they were doing. So, being able to go there and talk with the coaches and getting to meet everybody finally, because I had only talked to them over the phone and stuff. So that was really, really cool. And so I went one-on-one with Coach Ferentz. And so that was really fun to do, and got to talk to him in his room. And that his room is really, really cool.
His office is just nuts.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, it's super super cool. He has like a desk, or not a desk, like a coffee table in the middle of the room, and then there's like 2 couches, and he has his box of like rings and his watches and stuff from Bulls, and that's super cool. He let me hold one and wear one. It was really really fun. So.
Davon Hall's with us, Bellevue West, Hail Varsity Radio, as he's talking about his summer trips, Notre Dame, Iowa, Nebraska camp, and of course Xavier down at Nebraska. And man, I covered him in high school, and I've seen my share of Bellevue West ball games when you guys come down to Lincoln, so it's been fun really following your program. But Xavier's fit in well in Lincoln and done incredible work. And how much contact do you have with him, if any, about his experience down in Lincoln?
Actually, so I went down there. Daniel and I went there, and we got to meet up with him, and we got to talk with him, and we got to see like his dorm and stuff, and so that was really really cool. We text every once in a while just to see how each other are, like just see how everything's been going. And as of what I know right now, he really really loves the program. He loves everything that's going on there, and I think he's going to be something really really good this next year for them. So.
No, he's a special talent. Your skill set's incredible as well. And, as you kind of navigate the recruiting process, who do you lean on? Who do you talk with? And have you enjoyed this, or has it been overwhelming?
I've actually really, really, really enjoyed this. So I think this is really special. And, like, I'm doing a sport that I love to do. And I'm really, really into sports. So being able to do all this stuff has been very very, very special. And so, but I mainly talk to Caden and Micah about stuff like this, and Danny, because him and I are going through this together, and so him and I are like communicating about stuff a lot of the time. So,
well, a thought on the upcoming season, Coach Huffman and the crew, and how the year looks for you guys in 2021. How excited are you for the season to finally get here?
Oh man, it felt like forever doing or going through the summer and the off season and stuff. So finally being able to get back on track with all this stuff has been amazing. Finally being able to get on the field. Coach was very, very, very excited for our first day of just having competition with each other. So.
What do you like about Coach Huffman? What's one characteristic, before we say goodbye, that sticks out to you about him?
Oh man, he's so I would like to say he's funny, and he also tries to be funny, and like he's always down to earth with everything that he does, and he always pushes us, makes sure that we are not like overthinking everything, and like we're always just together in everything that we do. So. Stuff like he says, like, if a coach stops talking to you or communicating you or pushing you, that means he's moved on. And I feel like the harder that I work, the more that he comes to me about it, stuff like that. So I like that.
What last thought here? What have you focused on here this summer, work-wise?
My speed for sure. Route running, remembering the plays, because last year I had a lot of trouble remembering the plays, but this year's been way better. And
hey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Of course.
So that's Davon Hall, class of 2024 receiver from Bellevue West. You're going to be hearing a lot about him in the coming years. Chris also sat down a little earlier with Max Butenbach, class of 2023, Husker baseball commit from Southeast, and also a standout in the gridiron.
Back in at Hail Varsity, the Future 50 on the road today. Max Butenbach with us here from Lincoln Southeast. Talented I-back, defensive player, and incredible at baseball. Max, how's the Wednesday been for you? Good to see you again.
It's been good. Been really fun. Been really eventful. So
yeah, tell me part of the fun that was had. It sounds like you had some education with NIL, but also you had a chance to bond with some guys you play against. You play with, and then kids from around the state.
Yeah, so it was really fun to learn about NIL, like get to know that we can kind of start right now a little bit, even though we won't get paid, but we can like start our profile is what they said, like just getting your name out there. So when it comes to college, it's easier for you. And then it was nice talking with all the guys, with Gunner and then Maverick and all of them, and getting to know new guys that I haven't met yet. So it'll be fun to play all of them this year.
Yeah, well, how excited are you? I mean, you've done a lot of baseball during the summer, obviously, and you have football season on the horizon. Really good Southeast squad coming back.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We've had camp, and I mean, so far it looks like we could play a game if we wanted to. Like, we're all like locked in, especially after the heartbreaking season last year. We're all ready for revenge and come back and make it even farther in state, hopefully. Sure.
Well, what have you worked on, and what have you done? You played a lot of baseball this summer. Have you done any football camps at all this summer?
Yeah, I went to Iowa State and Nebraska, and that's been what I've been to. And so far I've been working on just like gaining weight, because last year I was a little small for varsity level. So I've just been lifting and everything else, and just working on anything I can do to help the team out.
Well, yeah, you played whale of an eye back last year for the Knights, and your buddy Gunner, good a little bit ago. He's done some really nice things on the O-line. As you look at the offense and obviously the defensive side of that side, and it really could come together. What's a key difference you think this year can have as far as what could separate this year's team from last year's team? You mentioned you got the revenge thing going. Yes, there's a chip on your shoulder, but just from a skill standpoint, how much have you and the guys gotten better this year?
I think it'll help us out a lot, and kind of just having, like, just knowing what you're doing, kind of not having that fear factor, kind of. So yeah, and I think our offense will be really good. We got like 4 of our linemen back from last year, so, and they're pretty big too, so it'll be fun to run behind them.
Yeah, I bet. Max being back with us. So tell me about your baseball summer.
Oh, it's been very busy. So I've been doing prospects this summer, so we've, like, every weekend we go somewhere. We've been to Indiana, KC, Georgia, all around. Just
so you've been a tour and traveling man.
Yeah, seen a lot of new places.
Good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I'm sure you kept an eye on Husker baseball.
Yeah, I have.
What'd you think of this season?
It was pretty awesome. Seeing them go pretty far, and especially play against Arkansas and get a win under their belt against Arkansas, who was the number 1 team.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And then just picking up Childress, which is
Big Rob's nice.
Yeah, a big pickup, but yeah.
Max being back with us. Max, it's good to see you. We'll see you around again, man. Continued success to you and your great family, and we'll be in touch again.
All right, thank you.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmidt on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Lincoln Orthopedic Center. Dr. Doug Toewes with us. Dr. Doug, how are you?
Doing good, Chris. How are you doing?
Good, man. Gearing up for football. Just put a wrap on baseball with juniors team, and that was a special group of kids and coaches, and kind of turning our attention not only to some football, NFL, and college, but Major League Baseball is heating up, and a familiar name on the Jock Doc episodes, unfortunately, Steven Strasburg.
Yeah, the guy's had his share of injuries. There's no doubt about that.
Well, the new injury, a season-ending neck issue, another frustrating year for the World Series hero, and had discomfort in a 27-pitch bullpen session last week. Saw a specialist beginning of this week, and you know he's not been right. Dr. Doug, 1-2 with a 4.57 ERA, and diagnosed with neurogenic outlet syndrome.
Let me help you on that one.
Thank you. Thank you. Please and thank you.
Neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome. When you see it in the literature, for people who are kind of looking at it, they'll see TOS, which stands for the thoracic outlet syndrome.
Well, tell me about TOS. What's going on with it?
Yeah, so this is not a particularly unusual thing for a thrower. It's something we see also in the general population. The nerves that are going out from the neck into the arm come through a fairly limited space. I don't want to use the word tunnel because it's not quite like carpal tunnel syndrome where it's a physical tunnel. But there's an area at the base of your neck and out into the shoulder that's bounded by some of the muscles that are in the neck, and then also by the upper part of your rib cage. And when the nerves are passing through that area, they can get pinched, and that can occur as a result of either having a thickened up muscle layer that pinches against them. Sometimes it's the prominence of the bone of the rib cage. And so as you're reading through things on thoracic outlet syndrome, you'll see discussion about taking out the first rib as an example. So that's basically what the concept is opening up the space for the nerves to go through.
Man, how involved and invasive is that, and is it a cure-all? I mean, once this procedure happens, say you remove a rib, and should it work, or is there real estate around that neck region that you can look at before you go taking somebody's rib?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. When you're doing the workup on this thing, there's basically three things that you're looking at. One is, are the nerves being pushed on by something like a bone spur in the neck or a herniated disc in the neck? Because that can cause the nerves also to not feel right going down the arm. You're looking at the thoracic outlet syndrome, and then you're also looking at a situation where sometimes blood vessels can get engorged and choked off up in that area. And so all of those can mimic each other, and so you have to look at all of them. And the doc that's doing the procedure for Strasberg, he's a vascular surgeon. And so with all the large blood vessels that are up in that area, these are the guys that are normally working up in that area and do these types of procedures.
Dr. Doug.
So, yes, you're right. It is a situation where you got to rule out a bunch of things.
Dr. Doug Toewes with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. We're talking Stephen Strasberg, TOS syndrome, and surgery scheduled for Strasberg. So when it comes to recovery, discomfort, kind of getting back to MVP form, what's on the table here for Strasberg, Dr. Doug, with his recovery?
Well, Chris, that's a pretty hard one to predict. The mechanics of throwing, we've talked about it before. There's just so many little things that can really change how effective a thrower is. Between his elbow and his shoulder, and the muscles around the shoulder blade, and the nerves coming out of the thoracic outlet. So it's a little hard to predict. But in terms of, is the surgery itself considered to be a successful surgery predictably, the answer to that is yes. So to the degree that it really is these nerves that are causing him the symptoms, by relieving the pressure on those nerves, it's very reasonable to expect improvement in that. And Strasberg, great, what a great arm, and guy knows what he's doing when he's manipulating the ball, so you'd expect that he'd be able to get back to it.
From a timeline standpoint, you've got Washington that expects Strasberg to be ready for the start of spring training next year. That's big, and he is a big-time workhorse when healthy. the problem's been keeping him healthy between neck issues, because we've done a neck issue Jock Doc on Strasburg before. We now know the bigger picture here with the Toewes. I know he's had arm issues, hasn't he? Elbow and Tommy John type deal. And just the nerve part of things, when you look at the pain and feeling shooting down from neck to arm, and now when it comes to just the mechanics here, if you remove a rib, I mean, is there going to be some residual pain?
Yeah, some of that mechanics, but it's the first rib that is actually removed, and in doing that, there really is not a lot of connection in the first rib to the muscles that are really involved in the throwing motion. So that's a good thing. Sometimes when thoracic outlet surgery is done, some of the muscles that make up the edges of that outlet, sometimes those muscles are cut or removed. Now, I wouldn't be wanting to do that in a thrower. I think that there would be some issues that could potentially be a problem with that. The other thing about this that makes his return by the spring a positive likelihood is because the way that they've been able to do that surgery has really changed over the years, and they're able to do it through a fairly limited exposure or surgical approach at this point, and that bodes well also. I think in my mind the biggest issues that come up with this are really just, is this the problem, or is it, or is there something else that's going on? And there are times in medicine that you don't have much choice but to say, okay, this is the most likely problem, we're going to do this, and then if that doesn't work, we go looking for something else.
Dr. Doug Toewes with us. Dr. Doug, this was fascinating. Thanks for a few minutes today.
You bet, Chris. I'm glad Junior had a good year.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Wrapping up a Friday edition Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery. It's Elijah Hurrdat back here in the ESPN Lincoln studios as Chris packing up his setup up in Omaha, coming back to Lincoln as he's getting himself ready for Husker Fan Day tomorrow down at Memorial Stadium. Scott Frost, all the players going to be out there tomorrow. That should be a good time. Going to be back with Hail Varsity Radio tomorrow. But before we get to tomorrow, we do have just a bombshell. I mean, and this has been a week of bombshells from Texas and Oklahoma deciding they want to go to the SEC. Now, ESPN has gone the legal route. I guess I should say the Big 12 has gone the legal route with the SEC, as they have now sent a cease and desist letter to ESPN claiming that, I'll just read it to you. Dear the president of ESPN, Burke Magnus, it has come to my direct attention that ESPN, the current business partner of the Big 12 Conference, has taken certain actions that are intended to not only harm the Big 12 Conference, but to result in financial benefits for ESPN. Setting aside ESPN's potential involvement in the recent announcement by the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma that they intend to leave the Big 12 Conference in 2025, I'm aware that ESPN has also actively been engaged in discussions with at least one other conference regarding that conference, including additional members of the Big 12 Conference, and that they would leave the Big 12 Conference. The Big 12 demands that ESPN immediately cease and desist all actions that may harm the conference and its members, and that it not communicate with the Big 12 Conference's existing members or with any other NCAA conference regarding the Big 12 Conference members' possible conference realignment or financial incentives related to possible conference realignment. So the Big 12 is essentially freaking out right now because the ESPN corporate offices have gone and reached out to other teams. I would guess that this is most likely Kansas and Iowa State. discussing possible moves for them to the Big Ten Conference. I guess we don't know, but we do know that the ESPN corporate is really keeping their own interests at heart as they look to get these other teams into other conferences so that they can continue to profit off them. That's the end of the day, what ESPN wants. And also, let's not forget here, ESPN still has $1 billion that they are to pay out to the Big 12 conference over the next 5 years if the Big 12 is able to stay afloat. So don't think here that the ESPN execs aren't looking at this and saying, well, if we can get the Big 12 to just fall apart now, that saves us $1 billion that we can go put in to getting TV deals for other conferences. So the Big 12 obviously unhappy at this time. They've sent a cease and desist letter. No response yet from ESPN, so we'll most likely get you a response to the Big 12's allegations tomorrow on the show. Just a reminder that if you missed any of today's show, you can catch it all via the podcast form, which is posted Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, however you get your streaming. Hail Varsity Radio will be on there. You can also check us out, hailvarsity.com, as well as the Hail Varsity YouTube page and ESPNLincoln.com. And if you are in the Twitter sphere, you can go check out all the interviews that were conducted today at the ESPN Lincoln Twitter page. That's at ESPN Lincoln. We'll be back in tomorrow. Chris Schmidt back from Omaha, so we preview the Husker Fan Day and the beginning of Huskers Fall Camp. It's tomorrow on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. It's Elijah Herbal signing off. For our local listeners, we've got Salt Dogs Baseball coming up here in about an hour.